All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dangerous Ideas. I'm Lee Camp. If you're watching this live, this is a very odd time for me to do a live stream. This is about 7:50 a.m. on the East Coast on a Thursday. And I'm doing it at this time for a few reasons. One is that just important shit I got to cover, got to do it, got to get it done. But also, there was no government secrets yesterday, which is normally my Wednesday live stream. So that didn't happen for various reasons that are too boring to even talk about. And then also, I am probably not going to be able to do a live stream tomorrow, Friday. So that means why not bring you one today? So all of those things are the reasons, but the reasons don't really matter. And I know most of you will not watch this live, so it doesn't matter to you either. But let's get to some of these stories. And hello to anybody who is able to make this bizarre timing. Thank you for being here. Click thumbs up, click share, leave a comment, all those things. But Max Blumenthal, great journalist, Gray Zone News, you know him. They detained him at the airport arriving back from Iran. He was reporting on the funeral, the Khamenei funeral, which I didn't realize this at the time when I talked about it a little bit a few live streams ago. It is now widely being reported as the largest human gathering in history. And I don't know if anyone's arguing about that, but in terms of those numbers, but it's like 40 million people or whatever, tens of millions of people. It may be the largest human gathering in history. And this is the country that the Trump administration was sure would just turn on their government, abandon their government, and say, sure, U.S., come invade us, bomb us, blow our children up. Please, we welcome that. Sounds awesome. It seems to be exactly the opposite. But what I want to talk about is Max Blumenthal returns from that coverage, just like there were other mainstream media people there, and he's brought into a room by Border Patrol at Dulles Airport. And by the way, I'm doing a bad job of hyping the rest of the show. We're going to be talking about Jeremy Scahill really pinning Ro Khanna into a corner where Ro Khanna refuses to actually call Israel what it is, even though Ro Khanna was detained by the IDF recently. Also, I have to play this clip of a DSA voice, one of the main voices for DSA, just completely flaming out in this interview when asked rather simple questions as to what DSA stands for. Anyway, we'll get into all that coming up and more. I'm trying to think what else I have for you. Oh, yeah, the Trump administration is working on destroying the ICC, the International Criminal Court, which nothing says we are criminals more than trying to get rid of the International Criminal Court. I have that. Anyway, I've got all kinds of awesome, not awesome in terms of what it says about humanity, but awesome news, important news coming up. So I did a bad job of hyping that at the top. But anyway, back to Max. He arrives at Dulles Airport, and I'll just read from the article on Gray Zone, July 10th. Max Blumenthal traveling back to the U.S. from Iran. By the way, for those of you who don't know, Max has been on my shows, Redacted Tonight and other many times. Anyway, he had visited to report on the funeral of Ayatollah Khamenei, the largest gathering in human history. While in Iran, Blumenthal interviewed members of Iran's negotiation team, top political officials, academics, and average citizens for a series of videos and print reports. He also documented several U.S. and Israeli war crimes from the ground, including the destruction of an entire neighborhood in eastern Tehran, where at least 40 civilians were murdered. Upon re-entering the country at Dulles Airport, CPB, Customs and Border Patrol, interrogated Blumenthal about his trip, searching his belongings and demanding that he provide access to all of his devices, his smartphones and others. He refused to provide access, at which point CPB forced him to turn over the devices to them. Basically, it's called stealing. That's stealing. I believe under our current laws, that's supposed to be illegal because obviously they don't have a warrant, but what do I know? They're protecting us from terrorism, right? The terrorism of journalism, the terrorism of accurate journalism. That's what this is. Other journalists and travelers have been threatened with the loss of their passports for a month if they don't hand over their devices. Blumenthal entered Iran exactly as reporters working for mainstream media and establishment outlets, CNN, NBC, did, via a press visa granted by the Iran Foreign Ministry. While in Tehran, he participated in official press events alongside other mainstream reporters like CNN, NBC, other outlets. However, they were not subjected to the harassment that Blumenthal was, right? Because mainstream media, it's basically like if you do the right kind of coverage, the kind of coverage that the U.S. is not that worried about. It doesn't mean they don't critique Trump some, but like CNN. But as long as it's not that threatening to the U.S. empire, you don't have to face these things. You don't have to face the criminal persecution of you and your devices, etc. Thank you, Jolly Lollipop, for supporting the show with a super chat. Your super chats do really help the show. And Jolly says, for the record, I'm anti-genocide and want exactly $0.00 of my tax dollars going to the genocidal, parasitic, apartheid ethno-state. Duly noted. I don't know that I'm the one that can really take those notes, but duly noted. As soon as he arrived in Tehran with the Khomeini funeral underway, Blumenthal was immediately subjected to defamatory attacks by Trump-aligned individuals. And the reason this is important is because this seems to be what caused Max to be targeted. Not exactly his coverage, but basically the pro-Israel, the Zionist lobby coming after him, these pro-Israel outlets. And they basically are the ones that alert the Trump administration to go after certain individuals. And so that seems to be why Max specifically ended up with his devices stolen by the Trump administration. He was targeted by defamatory attacks by Trump-aligned individuals and Israeli organizations supportive of war on Iran. Leading the charge was the Canary Mission. You guys probably know the Canary Mission, this disgusting Israeli outlet, or at least pro-Israel outlet, that basically I'll read what he says. An anonymous doxing outfit based in Israel, which portrayed Blumenthal as an extremist who had traveled to Tehran to honor the Ayatollah, not report on him, not report on his funeral, just honor him. Max just wanted to pray to the Ayatollah. That's what it was. Founded in 2015 to ruin the lives and career prospects of university students involved in Palestine solidarity activity, Canary Mission has since been used by the Trump administration to select international students for arrest and deportation. Canary Mission has been really important in just going after university students who dare stand up against genocide. And that was even prior to October 7th. They were doing that kind of work. And by the way, not to be confused with The Canary, a great British outlet that does amazing pro-Palestine work. Not sure why they have almost the same name. If you want to see more stuff from the Canary, that you can find that at radindiemedia.com, the news site that I founded with Eleanor Goldfield that makes $0 for us. So if you're like, I want to have an awesome news site that I go to regularly, but I want to make sure that no one's making any money from it, radindiemedia.com would be the place to go, because I do not make any money from it. It really just costs me money, but I feel like it's important, so we keep going. But so Max was not only attacked by the Canary Mission, he was also attacked by Laura Loomer. You might know that name, this psychopath, pro-Trump, that really sums it up. This pro-Trump psychopath. Trump loves her. She just basically tells Trump who to go after. She's like an alert to him. Go attack this person. Loomer escalated the attacks on Blumenthal by wishing for the journalist to be swatted which of course is when you pretend that someone's doing something, horrible at their home so that a SWAT team will arrive and point guns at them and terrify them, break their windows, sometimes arrest them. Sometimes, if you're really lucky, the SWAT team will accidentally kill someone in that. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that a wonderful thing to do to someone? So she wished on Twitter X that Max would be swatted. She said, "I hope you're raided in a heavily armed raid by the FBI at 5 a.m. and that Secretary Marco Rubio, strips you of your passport for aiding the Iranian regime as they chant death to America." Now she tags. Here's why this is important. The Trump administration legit listens to her. Like, she is a lunatic and they listen to her. And she tweeted that out and tagged the FBI in the tweet and tagged Marco Rubio. Now, if this were anyone else saying this to an independent journalist, not anyone else, but for most people, it wouldn't matter. Some person you've never heard of says, "Hey, FBI, go after so-and-so." Doesn't generally matter. Laura Loomer, legit, Kash Patel at the FBI and Marco Rubio read her tweets to them to see who to go after. And so legit, she tweets that, and then Max arrives home at Dulles Airport, and his devices are stolen, and he's interrogated, which, for many of these things, the process is the punishment. Like the fact that Max has to worry, is he being arrested? What are they going to do to my family? What are they going to do to my devices? What are they going to find on my devices, even if I've done nothing wrong? And pretend, as they did with the Prairie Land defendants, pretend it means X, Y, and Z. You're part of Max is part of some sort of conspiracy with Iran. You have no idea what they're going to do. So even if he comes out of this unscathed, gets all his devices back, they find nothing, the process is the punishment. It's just meant to make people's lives hell. Now, keep in mind that I bring you this story of an independent journalist that has done great work on Israel, on Palestine, on the genocide, being harassed, having his devices stolen. I bring you that story. One episode, my last live stream, we talked about what's his name, Fergie Chambers, Chambers, the heir to the Cox Media fortune, COX. Got to spell that one right. But he has disowned his family or whatever, cut off ties with his family, took his $250 million from the fortune, sold all the stock, and now donates that to Palestinian causes and other important causes. And they've arrested him, and the Justice Department is coming after him, and Spain may extradite him, and they have him in prison in Spain right now. It looks like Spain will extradite him. So you can see a pattern here, can't you? They're going after the money sources that donate to help genocide survivors. They're going after the media that helps alert people to Israel's behavior and Israel's how exactly Israel's committing genocide. They're basically going after the top of the web, to mix my metaphors. Can a web have a top? Talk to your spiders. Everybody, find the spiders in your house. Talk to them. Does the web have a top? Very important. Anyway, they're going to the top of the web of these the efforts to draw attention to genocide, hold people accountable for genocide, etc. Someone in the chat says it's at 3 p.m. Eastern, and I didn't realize it. I know. For those of you joining late, I'm doing this at a weird time. Combination of the fact that government secrets didn't happen yesterday, the fact that I can't do a live stream tomorrow, Friday, like I normally do, and so. Instead, we're doing a weird time on Thursday. Why not? Okay, I want to keep moving because I don't want to run out of time. I hope, obviously draw attention to Max Blumenthal's story. Hopefully he gets his devices back. We need to keep drawing attention to Fergie Chambers. If I have his name right, it would suck if I fucked up his name. Anyway, but I want to move on. Still on Israel. This next clip is he's one of my favorite journalists. Although he had several years there where he quasi disappeared, and it may have been having to do with raising a family. May have had to do with threats from Blackwater. I don't actually know because I don't keep in touch with him anymore. Not out of some sort of hatred. I just we're not in touch anymore. But Jeremy Scahill. came to fame with really amazing work on Blackwater years and years ago, 2008 or something. And now he's back. Like ever since October 7th and founding Dropsite News, it seems he's back. I don't know if it had to do with being at The Intercept. I'm not sure what it was, but and what I always liked about him is when he is like a dog with a bone when he finds the thing and just fucking digs into it. And on this clip I'm going to play, it's pretty long. It's about 3 minutes, but we'll see if we need to go through the whole thing. But he's talking to Ro Khanna, Congressman Ro Khanna in the clip. And Ro Khanna, as you know, as I covered also on the last live stream, was detained by the IDF for visiting the West Bank and harassed by violent land pillagers, aka settlers. And so that's all positive. I don't mean it's a positive news story. I mean, it is positive that Ro Khanna gave a shit to go to the West Bank and report on it and reveal. And he has called the IDF for lying, because they have been. Anyway, all that's good for him. And that's what I said in the last live stream. But what this clip is Jeremy Scahill in this interview, and I don't know if this was intended or they happened into it because I haven't seen the whole interview, but is calling out Ro Khanna for refusing to say things about Israel that need to be said, such as the fact that, no, Israel does not have the right to defend itself when it equals genocide. Those type of statements. And anyway, I'm just going to play the clip. I'll let it speak for itself. And yeah, here's the thing though. While you're watching this, you may think like, yeah, Ro Khanna really needs to be able to say these things. But Ro Khanna is really just, in this clip, is just a place filler for almost everyone in Congress, in that no one in Congress will say what actually needs to be said about Israel and about the fucking horrible genocidal ethno-state that it is. Or very few. Anyway, here we go.
Give me another example where you say it's okay to continue any level of support for an openly genocidal society that has mass murdered 80,000 people, more than 300 media workers, has invaded Lebanon, has bombed Iran, and you're saying, oh, but we need to protect civilians. This isn't about protecting civilians. The greatest threat to their civilians is their policy. And so I don't understand why you have even one qualified shred of support for a sniper mass murderer masquerading as the only democracy in the Middle East.
Well, but I'm not saying that the United States should be supporting the funding for Iron Dome, just so we're clear. I'm saying that we shouldn't be restricting Israel from being able to get the Iron Dome or be able to develop the Iron Dome.
Yeah, I love the idea. We shouldn't restrict Israel. How much genocide does a country have to commit before you think maybe we should restrict them? Like, how much fucking genocide? 3 years or two? We're coming up on 3 years. That's not enough. Let's 3.5 years of genocide. 4 years? When do you stop saying we shouldn't restrict Israel?
Technology. Well,
I stop there. Everything else you're saying makes so much sense. Why do you stop there? It feels to me like you're trying to have it both ways on this issue. So you can say, well, I actually support defending the Israeli civilians. You're not defending Israeli civilians with that policy. You're defending the sniper's ability to keep killing because it won't face the ultimate accountability, which is a total embargo on all support for an apartheid state.
I assume that what led to this back and forth was probably, if I had to guess, Ro Khanna voted for Iron Dome in the past to keep funding Iron Dome. I'm just assuming that's what led to this back and forth.
October 7th, did Palestinians have a right to attack Israeli military bases in the Gaza envelope? Yes or no?
I mean, I think October 7th attack was a terrorist attack, so I don't
Was it a terrorist attack when the first targets that were hit on the morning of October 7th were multiple military bases? Did Palestinian forces have a right to attack those military bases?
I am not for violence again in any way. I mean, I am for making sure that we end the occupation.
Do they have a right to do it, Congressman? Do they have a right to attack Israeli soldiers?
No, I'm not going to say that Hamas had a right to attack Israeli soldiers or kill Israelis. Like I don't think that advances peace or advances Palestinian statehood.
To me, that's okay, depending on your stance on violence and when it should be used. To say that I don't think there's a right to any kind of violence, But you have to then be exactly the same with Israel. You can't then say Israel has a right to do the thing you just said the actual oppressed people don't have the right to do. You can't then go, oh, but Israel has the right to, bomb to defend itself. That's just crazy hypocrisy.
Did Israel have a right to drop a single bomb on Gaza in response to October 7th?
I believe Israel had the right to get people who killed the civilians, but not in the way they went about it, which I've said is genocide.
But the Palestinians don't have a right to attack the very military bases that are running the killing operations on October 6th, 2023, or October 5th, 2023. It's a double standard. You're afraid of being called pro-Hamas. That's what this boils down to. Because I bet if we were talking off the record privately, and I said this to you, you would acknowledge that people around the world have a right to resistance by all means necessary.
I've always been for peaceful resistance.
And you're saying that there is no condition under which a Palestinian has a right to kill soldiers who are posted at military bases, enforcing by murder and forced starvation and deprivation an illegal occupation of Gaza. That's what doesn't make sense to me. I don't see how you reconcile those two positions.
Because I think that the armed resistance is only going to be ineffective given the power differentials. It's similar to what Gandhi thought in terms of how he took on the British Empire, and that having a moral force of civil resistance and appealing to the world's conscience is going to be much better chance of getting dignity and peace.
2019, the Palestinians organized the Great March of Return, which was a mass nonviolent mobilization at the gates of the concentration camp walls and fence in Gaza. And you know what Israeli soldiers did, Representative Khanna? They had a competition to who could shoot the most kneecaps of Palestinians.
Yeah, I'm glad he mentions the Great March of Return. I covered that for Redacted Tonight when we were doing that show. And yes, it was exactly these people who call for, or say, well, why didn't Hamas try nonviolence? The Great March of Return was thousands of Gazans just walking towards the border fence, and Israeli snipers, they didn't get that close to the fence, mind you. Israeli snipers shot them, shot their kneecaps, shot children, and murdered hundreds. They murdered old women flying white flags, or Palestinian flags. They murdered press, people with giant things that said press across. They murdered them. This was the nonviolent, and the thousands that marched towards the fence were not holding any guns. Okay, these people were just marching towards the fence. Shoot them, kill them. Why not? Someone in the chat said something I want to address, and I don't know whether it was meant to be satirical or something, but in case it was meant to be serious, Kevin Wright in the chat says, all Jews are Zionists, but not all Zionists are Jews. You are incorrect. All Jews are not Zionists, and not all Zionists are Jews. Your first statement about all Jews are Zionists, absolutely not. There are millions of anti-Zionist Jews, such as this guy, and I know many more. I'm not the only one. So the idea that all Jews are Zionists, absolutely false. But your second part of the statement is correct. Not all Zionists are Jews. In fact, there are more Zionist Christians in America than there are Jews in the world. So you got half your statement right. I will give you that. Anyway, I like that Scahill, really called to account that Ro Khanna could not answer on this, and this idea that Israel has the right to, quote unquote, protect itself while they commit genocide is a pretty laughable response. I still will give Ro Khanna credit for the fact that he went to the West Bank. Let's be honest. Most Congress people or people in our government at all are not going to visit the West Bank. They didn't go to visit Gaza when they were even allowed in. They have no interest in seeing how the people live, because that may just show them the truth. And they have no interest in bringing that truth back to Americans. So I give him credit for going there. I give him credit for reporting what happened to him and not pretending it didn't happen. I give him credit for going on nightly news or whatever, the news broadcast, and saying the IDF is lying, Netanyahu's lying. The IDF did not disperse the land pillagers with guns pointed at a congressman. Instead, the IDF helped them detain a congressman. And it was the only reason the IDF allowed them to go on their way and stop detaining them with guns was because Ro Khanna or his team got through to some diplomatic channel that had the ear of someone in Israel that basically said, let this guy go because this is going to look bad. That is the reason. That is the whole reason of why he was ultimately released, he and his team. Anyway, wanted to bring you that important clip, and I'm glad to see Scahill doing important work as well. Okay, we're going to keep going here. Why not throw in here Joe Biden getting interrupted? This is at a Maryland Democratic Party gala. Maryland is currently my home state. A Maryland Democratic Party gala where Joe Biden was speaking. And, you know, as the wonderful Joe Biden, it's not like he oversaw a genocide. No, he's a great dude, wonderful dude. I'm surprised they were able to get him to speak at this gala because I heard his job as a Walmart greeter takes up a lot of his time, just like loads of his time. So you got to give him credit for even finding the time to get him there. But anyway, here's Joe Biden trying to speak at the Democratic Party gala. Oh, maybe I have to restart the page because they won't let you just restart the video because Instagram is a pile of
Genocide Joe! How does it feel having the blood of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians?
Ma'am, I'm so sorry. This is a closed event. We're going to ask you to leave. Ma'am, I'm so sorry. This is a closed event. We're going to ask you to leave.
For genocide! That is your legacy, Genocide Joe!
Thank you, ma'am.
How does it feel
Thank you, ma'am.
to
Thank you, ma'am.
murder innocent people in Gaza?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
We're going to ask you to leave. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Also, in a moment, you're going to see the Secret Service come to speak to her because keep in mind, every ex-president still has Secret Service because you know, you don't want something to happen to Joe. Like another country is going to try and go after Joe Biden. like that would do a lot of good for them. Anyway, but you'll see she has the exact perfect response when the Secret Service comes up to her.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay,
thank you, ma'am.
Your legacy is genocide! Free Palestine!
You want to talk to me for a few minutes, or do you know?
Am I being detained?
You're not.
Then I can leave, right?
You can. I
Okay.
just wanted to find out if you would want to tell me what you were doing or what your stance was on anything. Or
I don't need to speak. I don't need to speak to anyone as long as I'm not being detained or arrested. I can leave, correct?
And if they're asking you to leave the site, you're not allowed to come back.
I'm not.
So yeah, she did a great job dealing with Secret Service, and that response goes for a lot of government officials. It goes for ICE officials. It goes for cops. You can say, "Am I being detained or arrested, or am I free to go?" And those are the only two options they have. There is no middle ground where they go, "No, we're not detaining and arresting you, but we want to keep you here." Well, that's detaining. We're not detaining or arresting you, but you have to answer these questions and stay here. Well, that's detaining. So when you say that question, it puts them in the spot, and it doesn't just go for Secret Service. I know almost none of us will ever speak to Secret Service, but it goes for ICE, it goes for cops, it goes for so many types of law enforcement. You can say to them, "Am I being detained or arrested, or am I free to go?" And those are their options. And so at that point, now, if something major has happened, they may just say, "No, you are being detained," in which case they've got to decide why they're detaining you. So now they have to come up with not charges, but they have to come up with something they're accusing you of. Anyway, important lesson to learn if you're ever in that situation. Am I being detained or am I free to go? End of story. Thank you, Dan, for supporting the show. Goddamn right. Good to see you back at the show, Dan. Bright and early with the blood boiling rage towards the garbage app on Instagram. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Nothing gets me angrier than Instagram. Yes, this is the early live stream. Thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. Here's the other thing is because I am so suppressed, censored on all these platforms, the numbers that are viewing the live stream are not going to change almost. Like I could do it at 5 a.m. It's going to be roughly the same numbers because they're not actually going to alert most people to the fact that I'm live streaming. And I mean, most subscribers, people who legit click the thing saying they want to watch. So it doesn't actually change the numbers. I could do this 4 a.m. East. It doesn't matter. I'm that suppressed. I'm that censored. Okay, let's keep moving away from the topic of Israel for a moment. This clip, I don't often highlight like left on left crime. It's not crime, I'm kidding. But left on left debates. But first of all, I feel like this video I'm about to show you is a substantive debate, an important debate to have. And also it is crazy how quickly the DSA guy flames out, can't handle it, and ends the interview. To me, it says something about DSA and what questions they can answer and what questions they can't. And if you guys are, for those of you viewing this, I know I have some people that like my show and also like DSA. This is not meant to trash every idea DSA's ever had. It's meant to have a substantive debate on what DSA goals are and where DSA is going and what purpose it serves, etc. For those of you in other countries, DSA stands for Democratic Socialists of America. They have promoted or helped to some degree certain people get into office, like Zoran Mamdani, mayor of New York. There were 3, I believe, DSA New York people that just won that are pro-Palestine. So there are some benefits in that you have more pro-Palestine, anti-Israel people in office. So it's not that DSA is just all garbage. That's not my point. But anyway, I think you need to see this clip, and I'm going to let Brianna Joy Gray do most of the talking here in just a second. But okay, so, well, before I do that, let me just real quick say I am announcing a new YouTube channel because I'm sorry to interrupt, but the topic, but I want to not forget this. It doesn't mean I'm getting rid of this channel. And I know, here's the other thing is for those of you who have longtime followers of my stuff, you've been like, Lee, I've followed you from this platform, this platform, this platform, this platform. I get it. This is the reality of being crazy censored. This is the reality of me having my platforms deleted, banned. So that is why it is like if I were never censored, I'd have my original YouTube channel. It would have 1 million followers, and I would never tell you to change to another platform. I would just be like, here's my YouTube. That's it. I'm not in that world, and I am censored and banned on so many places. So I'm creating a secondary channel. There's 2 purposes in this. One, I need a backup in case the current YouTube channel is banned. But more importantly, I am going to more carefully curate that channel. It's not going to just have every video due. It's not going to have my live streams. It's just going to be certain videos are going to be put up. But I need your help. Thank you, Mark, for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. I need your help because I need to get a certain number of subscribers for me to even begin really building it at all. And so here's the new channel, youtube.com/@LeeCamp, except spell Lee with 2 3s. So L33 Camp. L33 Camp. And that's the new channel. Go there, click subscribe, and make sure you change the bell icon to all notifications. Okay? This costs you nothing. This costs you, if you're logged into YouTube, this costs you 10 seconds of your time, and that's it. Okay? For those of you who might not be familiar with the subscribing trick here, click the subscribe tab. It'll twinkle. Then you have to click the little caret, the little arrow next to subscribed, and change it to all. If it's on personalized, that means YouTube can decide whether they want to tell you about my videos. And that completely fucks me. That's part by design. So change it to all notifications. That's the only way you might get notified about this, my new videos. So I would really appreciate it if you do that. You have to log into YouTube to do it. It's youtube.com/ and I'll put it in the chat too. at Lee Camp, except spell Lee Camp with 33. L33 Camp. Okay. I'll mention that the new YouTube channel again later, but for right now, let's get back to this is an interview with Brianna Joy Gray. It is Dan Denver, who I didn't know of him, but I guess he has a very influential podcast for DSA or about DSA, and people who are DSA really look up to this guy. So he's kind of one of the more well-known media personalities connected to DSA, is how I understand it. Anyway, it does not go as planned. Brianna Joy Gray thought she was having on someone to have someone she was kind of friendly with, that she could have a substantive conversation with. He flames out rather quickly once they get to this topic. And I'm only going to play like 3-4 minutes of it, but just know that going up to this point, there was no controversy between the two of them. They were like, that's what's so crazy about this Flameout. They were having a friendly conversation. Brianna Joy Gray, I haven't seen her in several years, but I think she does very good work. I appreciate her podcast. And I will say that, and this isn't me saying she's wrong. It's just she cares more about electoralism than I do. She spends a lot of her time talking about the leverage you could have in Congress, etc. I feel Congress is so captured that I don't want to spend my time thinking that much about electoralism, federal electoralism. So that again, that's not a saying she's wrong. It's just a difference of where we spend our time. I think Brianna Joy Gray does very good work. My interactions with her have been wonderful, and I did have her on Redacted Tonight years ago. And she used to be, for those of you who've never heard of her, she used to be with the Bernie Sanders campaign in 2016. I think she was their press, wasn't she their press person for a while? Anyway, so she starts to ask Dan Denver about DSA. Her problem, it seems, and my problem is that DSA, despite standing for a lot of important issues, ultimately usually funnels people back into the Democratic Party. They say support this person, support that person, and push comes to shove, Democrats. And I find it problematic whenever you are like, hey, at the end of the day, vote Democrat. To me, that just reeks of and I think that a lot of their members are very genuine people that want change, that want good things, that want to end the genocide in Gaza, that want healthcare for all. So this is not me saying, if you're in DSA, fuck you. Like, I think that type of circular firing squad is not real productive. But Brianna Joy Gray is just asking him questions about why DSA sees fit to support Democrats. Okay, I'm going to play a few minutes of this. And again, it was not contentious. He had the one question I'm not playing right before this is he had said, look, I don't really think we need to debate this. I am tired, and I didn't really come here to debate this. So he had said that, and she's trying to explain why she thinks it's an important debate.
My question is how broadly applicable those strategies are. What is sort of unique about New York and the phenomenon that, as I was about to describe, started with AOC's run, which was not a DSA fueled and enabled run, the way that is so frequently characterized. Because from my perspective, there is a little bit of a willingness to sort of get behind winners that is almost more predictive of success, like people who are perceived to be able to win, than
Zoran was pulling
a lot
at
of other
1%.
things.
Zoran was pulling at 1% when they started, and they have a political strategy that's very effective, and so they brought him from 1% to victory.
And when Zoran was polling at 1%, not a lot of people were trying to talk to him. I was, because I have all the candidates on, because I don't wait around to see if someone's going to suddenly unexpectedly spike in the polls to talk to them if I agree with their political agenda. But my point is that I think that what Zoran had to set him apart and that really enabled him to win was ranked choice voting, for one. Mm-hmm. And the fact that the candidates are running against Andrew Cuomo, who is uniquely villainous. And there was a...
I'll keep playing in a second, but I think they're kind of glazing over it rather quickly. But part of the reason that DSA New York has had so much more success in getting these people into office, or Mamdani, the three that just won in New York that are pro-Palestine, is both because New York City is heavily blue, so you're kind of only fighting within the not Republican area like that. That's mostly the only people that win are not Republicans, so it changes the demographics of the fight. But also ranked choice voting and public funding in New York are really what's been responsible for these crazy wins like Zoran Mamdani. And, Brianna Joy Gray makes that case for a second there.
Sort of a stop Cuomo consensus
Sure.
that
My
enabled
issue is with
Zoran's
this-
name to
and
get out
again,
there.
And I'm now suspecting that you're going to like play all this online, even though I'm having a meta conversation with you, which I wouldn't do for a guest on my show, which I would not do for a guest on my show.
But Dan, you just said you can play this if you want, and I never said we were going to stop.
I'd rather.
I don't edit my podcast like that.
Then that's fine. But I'm just telling you that, like,
So I think that's a fair response by her. Is like, I don't just cut chunks out of my podcast. That's not a thing I do. Like, we start recording and we record till we're done. And I think that's a fair response. Like, unless the way you do a show is like, yeah, we'll record it and anything you want out, we'll take out. And I totally respect her argument that, like, you announced that you don't like that I'm asking these questions, but that doesn't mean I can't. I'm like, we're still recording the podcast.
You asked me a question, I answered it. You debated me back, I debated you back, and now we're just like going over the same thing over and over. And my brain's just kind of like melting. My eyes are glazing over. It's just unpleasant.
I'm genuinely surprised by this. What about this is so unpleasant? I thought we were just having a conversation about what seems to me to be a really fundamental issue about the direction of the left going forward. Because let me state where I'm coming from.
Okay.
I'm concerned that maybe this is also something I'm not supposed to bring up, but I'm concerned that the same way that the left establishment pretended that force the vote was not a viable strategy. And then we saw Republicans effectively do it 2 years later and oust the. Did he just hang up on me? That's incredible. I really didn't expect that at all. So that was
all right. So essentially, that's the end of it. She kind of just reiterates her points after that. But it like was such a crazy. And I know he says like we've been debating it for 20 minutes, and I'm not going to play the full thing here. But no, they hadn't been. The part that he got upset about, they'd probably been debating for 5 minutes, and it wasn't contentious. It wasn't like they hadn't like been like, no, fuck you, I'm hanging up. It was just like, to me, it really feels like DSA and many DSA members or people who speak for the DSA. Like I said, this guy, and he seems like he's one of the more outspoken in terms of having a platform, DSA people. But the higher ups don't seem to have an answer to these questions about like, well, you get a few people into office who you say are DSA, but then they don't really do anything they do like a couple of things maybe along the DSA party line or quote unquote party line. For the most part, they're essentially just the same shit we've seen. Not all of them, but maybe Mamdani will continue to prove to be different. I don't know. But as I've said many times, statewide is different than federal. But, DSA is really excited they got AOC into office, or they claim to get AOC into office. I don't think DSA really mattered in getting AOC into the office. Maybe I'm wrong. But then AOC goes to do plenty of things that we're horrified by. Going from protesting on her first day in office, protesting outside Nancy Pelosi's office, to calling Nancy Pelosi Mama Bear and refusing force the vote and everything. So these people essentially abandoned anything that was DSA, or most of it. And yet you continue to act like this is a viable strategy. To me, that's a little insane. And, I think there's a good debate to be had as to whether DSA on a more local level, on a statewide level, is a very different thing than DSA on the federal level. I think that could be discussed. But I think this guy flamed out and hung up because DSA doesn't have an answer to this. The fact that they support people that ultimately create very little change. And at first, it seems like these people are huge wins, or it's going to make a huge difference. And then it's like, oh, they ran on the Democratic Party line. Now they're part of the Democratic Party. Now they're part of the democratic system. Now they are federally elected Democrats. Let's see them do the Democrat thing, which is to abandon all of that stuff we thought they stood for. Anyway, this is yet again like, because I had on someone to debate this years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago, and it seemed rather similar. They didn't hang up on me, but it seemed rather similar, where they just they didn't have answers as to like why fight tooth and nail for something that ultimately becomes a Democratic Party. And my feeling, not just with DSA, but federal electoralism in general, is that you can make a far more difference in your world, in your community, in your state, and everything if you don't spend tons of time talking about who's going to win, in Congress or what have you. Okay, I'm going to keep moving here. I have more important videos to show you. And I want to show you this video of John Perkins. This is moving on to the topic of Venezuela. This is John Perkins. John Perkins is the Confessions of an Economic Hitman guy. Wrote Confessions of an Economic Hitman. I also interviewed him on Redacted Night years ago. If you haven't read Confessions of an Economic Hitman, you should. You should read the updated version when he brings in Libya, etc. And I think there's a lot of important things to learn. Confessions of an Economic Hitman also helped me in my awakening. I had already awakened to the fact that the two-party system was garbage and bullshit, but I needed more. I needed to understand more of how U.S. coup making worked, etc. How the U.S. would control countries even when we aren't murdering their leaders, etc. And that book helped me wake up to a lot of it. Anyway, here is 1 minute of John Perkins. He posted about Venezuela. And for those of you who know nothing about him, he was never CIA. Instead, he was, I don't remember which companies, but these powerful corporations that control the economics. They're some of the biggest players in our economic system, global economic system. And his job was to go to other countries like Saudi Arabia and basically make a mafia type deal to them. Either you accept this money and go deep into debt to us, or you go against the U.S. and a U.S. empire. And next, if you disagree to our economic leash, our economic control, then we will move on to the next steps, which can involve war and ultimately can involve assassinating your leaders. It's kind of like steps down the escalation ladder, or up the escalation ladder, in terms of what we will do to you if you disagree to basically just cave into the U.S. empire. But here he is talking about what's going on in Venezuela.
3 weeks ago, twin earthquakes killed more than 4,000 Venezuelans and gutted much of the country. Meanwhile, Venezuela finalized new oil rules. They hand Venezuelan oil over to foreign companies. Chevron, the company infamous for destroying huge sections of the Amazon rainforest, appears to be the biggest winner once again. One investment banker told reporters the earthquake itself is a catalyst, not for helping Venezuelans, but for making oil companies richer. And what about U.S. politicians? According to news reports out of Latin America, Venezuela is sending much of its oil income, its petrodollars, through U.S. Treasury-run accounts, shades of the deal I struck with Saudi Arabia in the 1970s. And as we all know, Trump wants to make Venezuela the 51st state. It's just one more example of how MAGA has become MACA, Make America Corrupt Again.
Now, I don't really understand that last part because that implies the U.S. was not corrupt. At what point was the U.S. not corrupt? Anyway, maybe he just liked the clever initials. I don't know. But so he mentions that apparently the money from Venezuela that Venezuela makes from selling its oil, etc., is now going through the United States. Apparently, Marco Rubio is controlling it, and it is essentially like it's like I've heard others say it's like a kid, you know, in the household where the parent gives them an allowance each month. And if you control the economics of a country, you control that country. And he also mentions that the earthquakes in Venezuela are a catalyst, and this is classic shock doctrine. The U.S. took control of Venezuela in essentially, and then a tragedy strikes, and you've kind of gutted the ability of the country to deal with said tragedy, said shock. And then that is used to take more control of the country, to send in the white helmets, which I covered recently. Yeah, Daniel in the comments said the same thing I did. When exactly was America corrupt? I mean, sorry, not corrupt. Anyway, they're using this. It's classic shock doctrine. And he also mentions that Chevron, which has been one of the most notorious companies to just destroy Latin America. Chevron was the company in Ecuador that Steven Donziger fought against. It was Texaco initially in the 90s, but then Chevron bought Texaco. And Chevron, Texaco, have now, as you've seen, prosecuted Steven Donziger because he won the lawsuit against them in Ecuador because they poisoned the indigenous people, people dying by the thousands, like indigenous tribes living in the Amazon dying because Texaco, Chevron decided to just pollute them to fucking hell and back, and even going so far to tell the tribes that it didn't matter that there's oil in their water or chemicals in their water. It's good for them. It's vitamins. And really just the horror show they did to these poor people. So Steven Donziger wins the case against them in Ecuador. They owe billions of dollars to the Amazon tribes that they destroyed their lives. Chevron responds by leaving Ecuador so they don't have to pay any of it, then prosecuting Steven Donziger, who's an American. They succeed because our courts are corrupt and get him locked up on house arrest in New York City. New York Times is so corrupt and has Chevron on their board that they refuse to cover that Steven Donziger has been locked up in this complete charade, fucking kangaroo court, and has been locked up in his own apartment, New York apartment, for 2-3 years on house arrest. And anyway, he's out now, but that's all Chevron. And now Chevron is one of the biggest winners in Venezuela. And yeah, this is a cycle. John Perkins has been writing about it since the early 2000s. And here we are doing it again. It never changes. The U.S. empire has the same playbook over and over again. And they are trying to just steal everything they can from Venezuela. Venezuela, in case you need a reminder, is the largest oil owner. Is that how you'd say that? Venezuela has more oil reserves than any country on earth. All right, real quick before I have to wrap up. Well, let me just say this one more time before I get to the last story about the ICC. Is I have a new YouTube channel, a secondary YouTube channel. This one's not going anywhere, but I really need you guys to subscribe for free to the second channel I've just created. Only got one video there so far, but it's going to be different, and it's going to be more curated. It's going to have mainly my reactions to videos, and it's not going to have my live streams. But I need you to go there. Here, let me unsubscribe so I can show you again how it looks. You click the subscribe button, then click the little caret next to it, then change that to all. That is the difference. And the channel is youtube.com/Lee Camp or @Lee Camp, but you need to spell @Lee Camp with the 3 instead of E's. So Lee Camp, which is L33 Camp. L33 Camp on YouTube. I wonder if you do a search on YouTube for L33 Camp, if that's what would come up. Let me check real quick to see. L33 Camp. Yeah, that's the first channel that comes up. As long as you don't put a space in there. So L33 Camp, one word. Do a search on YouTube for L33 Camp, one word, and it will come right up. So click subscribe. Thank you for helping support my efforts to avoid the endless and merciless censorship and suppression. You guys rock for trying to help me do that. So thank you. Okay. One last story. This is the Trump administration is trying to assassinate the ICC, the International Criminal Court. And they've said privately, I don't know if they've said it publicly, that first of all, the U.S. has not signed on to the International Criminal Court. Part of the reason they did that is because the U.S. knew that we are one of the biggest criminals in the world. And they were worried that one day the ICC might come after the United States. So they're the U.S. is one of the only major countries to not sign on to the ICC. Of course, Israel didn't either. The ICC has now brought a warrant for the arrest of Netanyahu and other Israeli leaders. So, therefore, Marco Rubio and the Trump administration are vowing a diplomatic campaign to dismantle the ICC. Rubio said on Monday he issued a new broadside in the U.S. fight against the International Criminal Court, announcing a diplomatic effort to dismantle the global tribunal. Rubio issued the action call in an opinion article in the Wall Street Journal. His announcement comes after 3 of the court's judges filed a lawsuit in New York last month. The lawsuit argues that they have basically been sanctioned, debanked, as it's called. They said, let's see, this is from Marco Rubio, using all the tools at our government's disposal, working beside every ally with whom we can make common cause, we will dismantle the ICC brick by brick if necessary. And if you want to know where exactly this positions the United States going after the ICC, well, the ICC was created essentially to stop another rise of the Nazis. Like, that is why it's there. Here is one of the ICC members speaking on CNN. One of the rare times the CNN actually is allowed, I don't know, covers something, covers the truth about something substantive.
Of the individual is the protection of babies. I mean, these are fundamental American values that should engender bipartisan support. Now, of course, this situation, unfortunately, lies on the San Andreas fault of international politics and strategic interests. And of course, I've had some elected leaders speak to me and be very blunt. This court is built for Africa and for thugs like Putin, was what one senior leader told me. We don't view it like that. This court is the legacy of Nuremberg. This court is a sad indictment of humanity. This court should be the triumph of law over power and brute force. Grab what you can, take what you want, do what you will. And we're going to simply we're not going to be dissuaded by threats or any other activities, because in the end, we have to fulfill our responsibilities as prosecutors, as men and women of the office, as judges, as the registry.
So, yeah, I feel like the most important point of that is the ICC is the legacy of Nuremberg. Like, the Nuremberg trials are why we have the ICC, to go after war criminals. Now, there are faults with the ICC. Until recently, the ICC mainly went after people in Africa, like African leaders. I think prior to bringing the warrant against Israel, against Netanyahu, the ICC had only gone after one not black person. Essentially, everyone they'd gone after was African, except for one. And so there are criticisms to be had of the ICC. Of course, the U.S. has murdered 6 million people in just the global war on terror, and the ICC has never gone after the U.S., right? Well, I guess they didn't notice. Guess they didn't notice the fucking genocides we've committed around the world. But after like a year of genocide in Gaza, they did finally bring these warrants against Netanyahu. Now, you know, it doesn't mean it's going to cause anything. It doesn't mean Netanyahu is going to prison. Of course not. But it does make his life slightly more difficult. He can't fly to certain countries, etc. But let's be clear. The reason the Trump administration is going after the ICC is because the ICC, to some degree, goes after war criminals. And the United States is filled with war criminals. These are psychopaths. These are psychopath war criminals. These are psychopath pedo terrorists is what they fucking are. And the U.S. doesn't like that. Doesn't like that someone's actually going after the psycho pedo terrorists. It's real problematic. So they're escalating this battle. They've already put sanctions on 3 ICC judges, making it basically impossible for them to like have bank accounts and use credit cards and things like that. Like it's crazy what the U.S. can do to people, even in other countries, that they just want to make their life hell. Okay, I need to wrap up this hour. Thank you guys for joining me at this odd time. But I just want to repeat one more time that I have a brand new YouTube channel. You will be helping me fight the censorship to build up this new channel. And it is youtube.com/@LeeCamp, except spell LeeCamp, L33Camp. And then when you get there, make sure you click subscribe, and then so I'm gonna unsubscribe here, click subscribe, and then change that to all alerts. If you leave it on personalized, then that means YouTube will decide to never tell you about my videos. So I hope you'll do this. Even if you don't give a shit, even if you never look at your YouTube channels or whatever, even if you don't care about what you subscribe to on YouTube, it helps me grow and fight this censorship that I'm facing every single day on every single platform. So I hope you will do that for me. Another way to find the channel, if you didn't hear the YouTube link, is to just do a search for L33Camp, one word. L33Camp, one word. Do a search for that on YouTube. You got to go to YouTube, click the magnifying glass, do a search on YouTube. Lurley in the chat says, "Oh, for fucking Jesus Christ, I just subscribed." You're welcome. I'm glad I finally harassed you, Lurley, to the point that you were willing to do it. You know, sometimes you gotta harass people enough. I give you guys like crazy amounts of free content. I feel like I'm not asking for much, but all right. So I brought you this extra live stream because I will likely not be able to live stream tomorrow. So I guess the next time I'll see you is Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. I hope it'll be in the normal time, and keep fighting.